All right, let's dive right in. Today, we're opening a file on what is arguably the absolute darkest chapter in cult history. We're going to deconstruct an event that literally defies logic, an event that forces us to stare into the absolute extremes of human manipulation. This is the anatomy of a tragedy, Jonestown. I need you to pay really close attention to the mechanisms we're about to uncover here, because understanding exactly how this happened is the only way to recognize these same red flags out in the real world. 918. Take a second to let that staggering, almost incomprehensible number sink in. 918 people died in a single afternoon on November 18, 1978, out in the dense jungles of Guyana. And here's the fact that makes this so deeply disturbing. They weren't victims of some natural disaster. They weren't killed by an invading army. No, most of these 918 people willingly drank poison, simply because one man told them to. To really put the sheer, horrific scale of this into perspective, Jonestown stood as the largest mass death of American civilians in history. It held that grim record for decades, right up until the events of September 11, 2001. That's the level of devastation we're talking about here. This is the story of Jim Jones and the People's Temple. But to understand this terrifying end, we really have to go back and look at the beginning. Which brings us to Section 1. The illusion of hope. You know, the most terrifying thing about this whole cult is that it didn't just start out with violence or coercion or isolation. When Jim Jones founded the People's Temple back in Indianapolis in the 1950s, he actually lured thousands of vulnerable, marginalized people with this beautiful utopian promise. He offered racial equality, social justice, dignity, and a real sense of belonging. It was a community. It gave people a profound sense of purpose. But behind closed doors, a much darker reality was taking root. Secretly, Jones was demanding absolute loyalty. He was staging fake healings, literally claiming he could cure cancer with his bare hands, and he even started declaring himself the reincarnation of Jesus, Buddha, and Lenin. And if you questioned him, you faced public humiliation, physical beatings, and you were forced to sign over literally all of your personal assets. Moving to Section 2, let's look at the trap of psychology. See, the outside world just saw this thriving social movement, but inside, human psychology was being actively weaponized. This is the exact methodology of brainwashing. First, you have love bombing, overwhelming new recruits with absolute affection to create an instant emotional dependency. Then comes isolation, physically and emotionally cutting these members off from any friends and family who aren't in the group. Third is information control, dictating exactly what members are allowed to read, hear, and see. And finally, identity replacement, slowly stripping away the individual self until the follower's entire existence is defined entirely by the group. This wasn't an accident. It was precise, calculated psychological erosion. Put yourself in their shoes for a second. I really want you to imagine this. Imagine systematically signing over your home, your life savings, everything you own. Imagine having your actual passport taken away from you. Imagine being totally severed from your own family, entirely reliant on one single community for your food, your shelter, and your entire worldview. You're repeatedly told that your leader is a divine being. Eventually, you reach this terrifying tipping point where you have absolutely no reality left but him. And that psychological framework paved the way for the next devastating escalation. Section 3, the jungle prison. By 1977, journalists and government investigators started sniffing around and asking questions. So Jim Jones cornered his victims completely. He relocated tens of thousands of them out of the United States entirely, moving them to the dense, unforgiving jungles of Guyana to build what he called a socialist paradise. But let me be clear, the reality of this exodus was anything but paradise. It was, in every practical sense, a literal prison without walls. The everyday reality was incredibly grim. We're talking dawn to dusk, hard labor in brutal tropical heat, passports securely confiscated, armed guards patrolling the perimeter. Jones even broadcast his own voice over loudspeakers 24 hours a day. He literally never let his followers' minds rest. But the most disturbing part of all? The white nights. In the dead of night, alarms would suddenly sound, gathering all these exhausted followers to rehearse mass suicide. It was a brutal conditioning exercise, cementing absolute, unquestioning control over every single person there. And sadly, the conditioning worked. Which brings us to the climax of this explainer. Section 4, the final day, November 18th, 1978. This was the point of no return. And things escalated incredibly fast. In the morning, U.S. Congressman Leo Ryan arrives at the compound to investigate all these mounting reports of abuse. He interviews members, and a brave few actually beg to leave with him. By the afternoon, as Ryan's delegation reaches the local airstrip to fly out, Jones dispatches his armed guards, and they open fire. Moving into the evening, with the assassination complete, the final fatal protocol is initiated. Vats of cyanide are prepared. And by nightfall, 918 people are dead. Congressman Leo Ryan and 3 journalists were killed at that airstrip. That made Ryan the first U.S. congressman in history to be assassinated in the line of duty. When Jim Jones got the word that the congressman was dead, he knew the whole illusion was completely shattered. The U.S. government was going to come for him, and there was no way back. And so he called his congregation together for one final white night. Except this time, it wasn't a rehearsal. And this brings us to what is easily the most disturbing fact of this entire explainer. 304. Vats of fruit punch, laced with cyanide and heavy sedatives, were brought out. And the followers, conditioned by years of psychological erosion and sheer terror, they complied. Parents were actually instructed to give the poison mixture to their children first. 304 of the victims that day in the jungle were children. Which brings us to Section 5, the warning for today. When the world woke up on November 19th, 1978, everyone was asking the exact same question. How could intelligent, caring people allow this to happen? Well, listen to this closely. They didn't die because they were weak. They died because the system was designed perfectly to make resistance impossible. This didn't just happen overnight. By the time that final day arrived, these people had absolutely no money, no passports, and no identity independent of the People's Temple. The trap had firmly closed long before the poison was ever poured. And that is exactly why this file matters for you, right now. Jonestown was not some weird, unexplainable anomaly. It was simply the logical, horrific endpoint of a system built entirely on manipulation, isolation, and the slow destruction of the self. I want to warn you directly, the exact same mechanisms of love bombing, isolation, and information control that Jim Jones weaponized, they exist in relationships, organizations, and institutions around you today. Recognizing the architecture of this manipulation is literally your only protection against it. So we've reached the end of this file, but before we go, I really want you to ask yourself, what systems are you a part of right now? And honestly, how much of your own identity would remain if they just disappeared? There is so much more buried history to uncover. If you want to understand the forbidden psychology they never taught you in school, hit subscribe to Dark Archive. We break down the darkness so you can see it coming. The archive is open.